And recently, going back to, the prior conversation, everything is pointing to Texas making a huge charge. And then, maybe Georgia circling back and, actually being the one who gets two of the three of Mallory, Lamar, and Cooper. Miami not being at the forefront of what the scenario looks like presently. Blake Stewart, who you're all in on from Georgia, the safety, says thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to Clemson. That was last week. Also, who was it? Bryce Perry Wright, Texas A&M. James Johnson, Texas. Tyreek Green, another safety from the Atlanta area from Buford, goes to Georgia. But you're like, cool, we're all in on Blake Stewart, who's going to Clemson. Like, Devin Jackson, the safety from Orlando. Okay, he was committed to Zach Etheridge at Florida. Zach Etheridge works at Miami now. We are in a great situation. We're pushing there to watch him fly away and be a Duck at Oregon. Like Braden Robinson, the fast, shifty slot receiver, may or may not have told him, that you had a spot for him or not. But either way, Miami was a finalist, and he's going to Notre Dame. Like Lamar Brown, top 5 player in America, goes to school on LSU's campus. I say, I'll believe it when I see it, and we're not going to see it because he, like most players from Louisiana, said, cool, throw up the L. I'm going to Tiger Stadium, and, talks about basically putting on for the crib, in other words, because players from Louisiana do that. Players from Miami don't. Tristan Keys, committed to LSU, might be looking at flipping, but that's going to be a season-long thing. But at present, that's a L. Chauncey Kennan from Sarasota Booker, 5-star player, just committed to Florida State. Samari Matthews, a cornerback that Miami was after since forever, was committed previously to Clemson, in a good spot like it seemed like for a while. He's going to Texas. Messiah Hampton, the wide receiver. Now, I know he was further down on our board and everything, but this is a 4-star All-American kind of player. He's flying away and going to Oregon. Keyshawn Stansel from North Carolina, a big defensive tackle. He's going to Clemson. Like, Zach Turner. Now, we, obviously got a different tight end in the class, but this is a guy that we put a lot of resources into from the Dallas area, and he stays home to go to SMU. Daniel Norman, edge rusher from St. Thomas Aquinas, that Miami was looking at as a high 3-star, borderline developing into a 4-star edge rusher. Local kid, should be kind of under the radar. Miami was on him a little bit first, started pushing a little bit, and then started back. Okay, cool. He's going to Oklahoma. All I'm saying is the evidence of whiffitude through this summer of blue chip guys is, it's piled high. You know what I mean? Like everywhere you look and everywhere like that we've talked about and seen, heard, and read about. Okay, and I say it because I watch people's content, I read other people's stuff, and I do talk to some people, although not as many, in the recruiting world as before. That's why I always say that I have seen, heard, or read. That's why I say that, in case anybody was wondering. Okay. But the blue chip players that have elected not to go to Miami recently, it's a who's who, right? So now you're talking about Samorian Wingo, right? Derek Cooper on Sunday. This is a kid that, again, I have always pushed back on the notion of like a must-get recruit in a vacuum, but you've positioned yourself that you need this player. Now, can you move forward with others? Miami had to because we whiffed on other guys in other years. I'm not going to say any names. You know who I'm thinking of, but I'm not going to say it, right? But, I don't know why this part of the year, and I know, I just saw, Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach, he was on vacation somewhere. I know that, this last stretch before fall camp opens in a couple of weeks is, where you get a little bit of relaxation for the coach. You're in a dead period. You can take some vacations, check in with your wife and kids. Say, hey, I know we're going to go to, St. Lucia. It's right there from Miami. It's just off the northern coast of South America. In case you're wondering of a great vacation location, look into it. It's beautiful. But like you do that, but this is not me opining right now. This is me just laying it bare. It's been with City. So it is problematic. Deal with that as you see fit. I would welcome Samori and Wingo into this recruiting class. I do not believe at this point, if at the time of their commitment, you were to say, we want or would have taken Braden Robinson and Jason Lopez, but we would have preferred, and we're kind of setting it up to have room for, another player or two at the wide receiver position. So we kind of we're in, but we're not all in. You know what I mean? Like you're going on dates to the bar, but you're also head on the swivel and looking at the bar. I could see that. I don't necessarily agree with it. And I don't think that's what happened. But if someone were to say that, I would understand it. At this point, who are you waiting for that you would be slow playing Samori and Wingo? At this point, it's been all in on Derek Cooper, whose announcement is on Sunday. I mean, you haven't been waiting for anyone but him. You know what I mean? By getting a Jay Lamar on campus, by getting these other dudes on campus who have committed elsewhere from other places at the running back position, by pushing for Javian Mallory and then being like, hey, boss, we need you to figure it out because we need two in this class. We need Derek Cooper and either you or the guy standing next to you. You already said seats taken. Is it taken or is it ain't? Because if it ain't taken, then we're going to go talk to Jay Lamar real heavy. Jaden Mallory says, cool, smooth. So you've set everything up to save room for this kid. It's challenging and straining credulity a little bit of like why. And I think, earlier, and like this is a thing that like myself and other content creators, in the Kane space disagreed, because I thought there should have been an uptick in recruiting last year towards signing day, which did not happen. And I was very critical of him. Y'all know that. And I know many others said, well, it's going to be really paid off in 26, the Cam Ward success. So I don't see it, but if it changes, then I will eat humble pie. It seemed, and I had a slice of humble pie earlier, especially when Jackson Cantwell committed, number one player in America, boom, da, da. All right. But like whiff after whiff after whiff, especially at defensive line, in the secondary, like at safety, I don't know who our safety class is going to be now, right? Because you're talking about, oh, well, Devin Jackson, you pretty much have him penciled in. Nah, Blake Stewart, you have those two as your probable penciled in pair. No and no. I don't know. And, I'm trying to take the long-term view, the 30,000-foot view, but I mean, and I know that Miami's paying, as Miami should, because that's that's the landscape of the sport now, right? So we know that Miami's paying. And we've seen guys go other places and then started hearing, well, we know that it's not on the back end, because everybody's, watching Miami's pockets every time. Well, it's not because of Miami's lack of offer, of a competitive offer. It's not because they were outbid. Specifically, Calvin Russell going to Syracuse. I saw multiple people talking about the reason that he went to Syracuse did not come down to the fact that Syracuse offered him more money. So now we can't get people to take our money, apparently. It just, worried isn't the word, but I have concerns. And while early on in this recruiting class, it seemed as though the staff was moving and operating in a way to quell those concerns and move in a positive direction, all that momentum, all those positive moves have long since stopped. And it will be a very, very, very tough scenario and situation come this time next week if Derek Cooper is committed somewhere else, as has Maureen Wingo. And then you're talking about Anthony Kennedy Jr. from Little Rock, Arkansas, who committed a couple weeks ago, being the only commit of note. I mean, well, Israel Briggs, June 24th. Ashari Charles 2 days before that. So it was Israel Briggs on the 24th, Vance Pafford on the 23rd, flip from Georgia. Ashari Charles the day before that, cool. And then Anthony Kennedy on the 27th. And I mean, yeah, Brody Jennings on, the 5th of July, but and Tyron Evans, cool. But the misses are piling up in a troubling way for me, especially at key positions of need. And I know I said, and I have maintained for years, that offensive line would be a major focus in this class. And I do believe that this offensive line group is the best in the country as presently committed. Ain't enough, boss. And a thing that I've said, and I believe it operates differently than James Coleman, who was with us last week. If the standard is the standard, right? Even with the additions, I at present do not believe that the standard is being met in terms of recruiting. And to the comments says too early to worry, 9818, I'll wait till December to be worried about recruiting again. I'm not worried, but there are obvious concerns due to missing on so very many players, specifically on the defensive line and in the defensive secondary at safety in the last 6 weeks. I prefer to have Irvin, Colajay, kept Cooper, Johnson for Cat. I mean, yeah, you can make up a list of players that, hypothetically, if we're playing the college football trade machine, if you're talking about 2 5-stars and 2 4-stars for the number one player in America, even at the position that he plays. Remembering, Joel Irvin is a monster and just got upgraded to a high 4-star commit on 247, and then that obviously boosted his composite rankings and everything. And then you also have Ben Congdon from Ohio at tackle. So, you have 3 legit tackles in this class. You could see a path forward. If you're getting because of the list, Brett Colajay is a 6'5", 6'6" offensive guard who's an All-American. Cool. Cooper's a 5-star. Johnson's a 5-star. Irvin, I don't even know which player you mean by this, but I would assume. But that's also kind of a work of the fiction of your mind. I don't necessarily know that that's a real proposed trade, but I get what you're saying. We're speaking in the world of hypotheticals. Only one top 100 recruit in this class, and I don't know what your which list you're looking at. I don't necessarily agree with that to be true, and even if it is true at this point, I don't believe that will be true in the end, because there are several players who I still believe should be ranked a little bit higher in this group. But if we didn't miss on all the guys we've missed on recently, that number will be different. So, we're kind of supporting the same point there. But as of now, yeah, exactly. Cantwell and Briggs in the top 100 per the 247 list. But still, yeah. So, again, not worried. The recent run of L's on the trail is a bit concerning.
Well stated. That was quite the dissertation right there. And because what was it, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, it was maybe the number 3 class. Did it get that high? Something in that range?
No, I wasn't all the way up to 3, but it was definitely up there. Give me 2 seconds.
Folks, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. This is the Hurricane Show. We go live with Miami football talk with all of you each and every Wednesday with Cam. We've done it forever, and we will continue to. So we appreciate your contributions.